I'm going to take you through the method of making a mold box ready for the pouring of silicone rubber to make a silicone mold for casting a variety of things. In this case we're going to be casting some platform signs for a G-gauge railway. Here you see the mold box, very simplistic structure. It's got 4 sides, each side held together with a couple of Conti blocks for ease of disassembly once the mold has cured. You see inside the mold box here, the sides are sealed and the base is sealed to the sides of the mold box. That's just to stop obviously the excess silicone liquid escaping out of the mold box, so it's important you make it a sealed set of joints. The other thing of course is to make the mold box base and sides out of a slippy type surface, and melamine is just an ideal surface for this particular purpose. Here you can see the basic items which we're going to mold. We have 2 signs and 2 support units for them, so I'll be going to take you through the preparation of these and how we put them in the mold box. Here we see the items placed in the mold box ready for casting, but the best thing to do is make sure that your items are spaced nicely within the mold box. The next thing to be done is to put a slight layer of sealant round the outside of each of the items. We just put a layer of sealant all the way around. That helps to seal the item which you're going to cast to the base of the mold, and it stops the migration of the silicone rubber migrating underneath the pieces which we're going to cast. That's the second sign, which has the sealant round the outside, ready to be fitted into the mold box. That's the first sign section placed into the mold box, and just squash it down to make sure you've got a good seal around the outside of the first piece. Wipe off the excess obviously before you pour the silicone to make the final cast. That's now all the sections fitted and pressed, sealed into the mold box, and what we do now is go around the outside of the individual items with something like a flat blade screwdriver to remove all the excess sealant, so the items are well sealed to the base of the moulding box, and they can't move around when the silicone rubber is poured in. Right, now that's all the items fitted into the mold box, ready for the silicone casting process. For this process I'm actually using a proprietary base silicone which is available from a local supplier, and a curing agent, and the whole deal is mixed in a ratio of 1 part curing agent to 10 parts of the base silicone. So now we've prepared the silicone rubber. In this particular case it's 750 mils of silicone rubber, which is going to fill the mold box to a reasonable depth above the highest point of the items to be molded, and we add to that 75 mils, in this case a 10:1 ratio, of red curing agent to the white silicone rubber, and we have to give it a vigorous stir to make sure the whole of the curing agent is well dispersed into the silicone liquid. So that's the silicone rubber and the curing agent all well and truly mixed. You must make sure that you get a thorough mix and there's no residues of the white silicone at the bottom of your mixing tub. You must ensure it's a good thorough mix. We then, next stage is to pour that liquor into the mould box. Okay, so here goes the pour now. Pour it gently into the mould so it covers all the items in all the corners. A nice even pour. Make sure the silicone liquid goes into all the little nooks and crannies of your pieces that are being moulded. Always make sure that you have the depth of cover above the highest parts of your items being moulded, so there's enough depth in the final rubber mould to give you a good depth above the highest point. So that's the final stage of the moulding process to make the actual silicone mould. You'll notice that there's a lot of air bubbles on the surface. They will all come out as the mould cures over the next 3 to 4 hours. Generally, I tend to leave a mould overnight before I start to strip it out of the mould box. It's best to leave it about 8 hours really, but it's all temperature dependent. Now this is 8 hours later and the silicone has dried quite well, quite hard, ready for extraction from the mould box. What I'm going to do next is take a sharp knife and just draw around the edges of the silicone mould so it releases itself from the sides of the mould box, and then I'm going to remove the sides so it's easy to come out. So there's the mould box sides removed and the mould just sitting there ready to be taken off the surface. So there we have the fully moulded items. You can see the sealing around the items that we put on before has stopped any migration of silicone underneath the model bits that we're moulding, so they should come out of the mould quite easily. So there we have the final mould with the original model sections removed. All that remains to make this a working repeatable mould is to take the excess flashing off round the edges of the items to be casted, so it just gives us a nice finish to the final product. And there we have how to make a mould. I'm going to take you through the simple process of making the mould box for a silicone rubber mould. I'll point out the easy things to do and the things to look for. That was one of the things I didn't expect, but still, here we go.